We're evolving fast to secure AI, but are we evolving fast enough to secure with AI?
You're listening to Defense in Depth.
Welcome to Defense in Depth. My name is David Spark. I'm the producer of the CISO series, and joining me as my guest co-host is Howard Holton, CEO of GigOhm. Howard, say hello to the audience.
Hey, happy to be here. First-time listener, long-time caller. This is working out great for me.
Howard is a true friend of the show. We adore having Howard on the show. So thank you so much, Howard, for joining us. Our sponsor for today's episode is Palo Alto Networks Cortex Cloud. Agentic security from code to cloud to SOC. More about just that a little bit later in the show. But first, let's talk about today's topic, Howard. Let me give you a quote. Quote, the first time I saw an LLM make a decision on its own, I felt two things, awe and unease. It was fast, confident, and almost right. Almost right is not good enough for security, but the accuracy is changing exponentially daily. Now, that quote is from Upwind Security's CISO Rinki Sethi, who's been a guest on this show before, thinking about how we need to evolve with AI. She said, quote, if we don't rethink our role, from blockers to enablers, from rule makers to co-pilots, and essentially that's what we need to do, we risk becoming the bottleneck in a machine speed world. I think some very good points. And by the way, I felt the same things, unease and excitement when I saw AI for the first time. So, Howard, I get the feeling that we don't even know where to start, and that confusion of where to begin is causing us to fall behind. What do you think?
So I agree with kind of everything, right? The first time I saw an LLM respond on something that mattered, that wasn't just chit-chat, awe would be the word, right? Awesome can be both good and bad. I can be in awe, staggered back as though I saw the face of God, and I can be awed, staggered back because I'm terrified. And it contained both of those things at once, right? What does this mean for the future? What does this mean for where we are? And really appropriately, are we at all prepared for this, right? The answer is we're not prepared for this, but we're never prepared for technology revolution.
That's a good point.
The important thing I think people need to understand is no action is absolutely unacceptable. You can't do nothing. And that includes analysis paralysis, right? Take action today, even if it's baby steps. Learn today, even if it's baby steps. And absolutely, you cannot be the office of no.
I agree. And I think a lot of this is accepting we'll make mistakes. That has got to be part of it. We're going to delve into this a lot, and a lot of great quotes on this discussion. And the person joining us, also a frequent guest on the CISO series, thrilled that he's back. It is the CISO over at PSG Equity, Adam Glick. Adam, thank you so much for joining us.
David, thanks for having me. Looking forward to this.
What's everybody talking about?
Emily Choi Green of Clearly AI said, quote, as security engineers designing AI systems for security, our role is to determine where AI systems can make decisions on their own in low-risk cases and when a human should be in the loop. In theory, if the use case is low enough risk and there are enough compensating controls, almost right can be good enough. But now, 100% of our AI security decisions have human in the loop, and we still save the business a ton of time. So we're heading in the right direction, essentially, is what Emily is saying. Bill Harmer, CISO of Supabase, said, quote, it would be interesting to know how, quote, close it was on the answer. Almost right can work if you're dealing with broad species defenses until you can localize. I think that as the attacks come faster, we will need a lot more general broad spectrum defense to slow the attacks down long enough to find a solution. Also a good point. So this sort of acceptance of good enough, Howard, is kind of what we need to begin with and be able to digest. What do you think?
I think that's what everybody's actually saying when we're talking about accuracy. The reality is humans never act with 100% accuracy. We often act with good enough accuracy for the thing we're doing. As you start to scratch, okay, why did that happen? What is actually going on? Blah, blah, blah. You find people get squidgy at their own edges. Yet somehow when it's a machine, we expect the machine to be able to go deep, to be able to go wide and be 100% accurate. The truth is that's not necessary. What we need is enough accuracy to get the job done. And right now, we're not mature enough to remove the human from the loop. So keep the humans in the loop. My focus with my team is always, how do I use AI and any automation to amplify the value the humans add and deprioritize wasting human time, right? So what are the things they're wasting time on? Let's get those out of the way, use automation for as much of that as possible, and then amplify where humans add value. And if you can identify those two things, AI can be a significant value add today. It's not perfect. It's only getting better. You just have to be really, really prescriptive about it, really, really focused on it.
All right, I'm throwing this to you, Adam. Can we as security teams be accepting of the level of accuracy today that we know is getting better because we are watching it get better? Howard, maybe you said it, the fact that, the worst version of AI we're seeing right now, it's only going to get better. So, Adam, what do you think? Can we accept that we're going to be making mistakes as we're figuring this out?
Yes. I mean, absolutely right. I mean, Howard's correct with, the human in the loop is essential for where we are right now in it. And we're seeing maybe not the infancy, but it's grown up a little bit, but it's the right posture for where we are right now. And that ROI argument that Emily mentioned, that holds true even as a constraint. I think Emily's framework is exactly right. This risk tier autonomy, low risk, high value, well understood decisions, those can be automated, and how we use those is really important. And Bill's kind of, broad spectrum defense analogy is interesting, right? It thinks about, as we differentiate between platform controls and targeted controls, but broad defenses in general can create this alert fatigue of their own if this AI is too noisy. So I generally see organizations instrument before you automate. It's the same problem we've always had of like garbage in, garbage out. If you don't have clean telemetry and you don't have a good baseline, the AI decision in any maturity level it's going to be in is going to be a bad one. They're only as good as the signal you feed in. But to answer your question, yeah, we are where we are and we're using it to the most effective way it can be used.
By the way, let me just double down on that comment. You want to see an example of that? Just start using AI and start trying to get it to answer a question. You'll see it'll fumble and you'll get to some level of an answer you want, but you'll watch the thing fumble. So why wouldn't it also fumble in sort of looking at your security data? Yes, Adam?
Yeah, it definitely will. And I think use it for itself, which is we used to call it Ralph or Ralph Wiggums or Ralphing it, but like let it iterate, let it improve, let it continually get better on these things. The more context it has, the better it's going to be. So the more you can give it these chances to kind of fumble and be an immature and incomplete solution, the more it's going to become a more mature and a more complete solution.
And by the way, I was just looking at some Claude stuff yesterday. In their training itself, they make it very clear that we make mistakes and we need more direction. They make it clear. They can't read minds. That's what they can't do.
Well, I think we've always triaged. So instead of looking at AI as a solution for the things you were having your humans do before, why don't you look at AI for the things that fell below the waterline that you did not have time to have humans do anything with? You already determined no one's going to get to that thing in a reasonable amount of time. How about you start there with AI and don't give it the most important things. Don't give it the things you were going to handle with a human anyhow.
That's the way to use it, right? That's the way to use it. Use it to make the low level, the easier decisions better, harder, faster. That is an excellent way and very approachable for anyone.
What aspects haven't been considered?
Travis G. of Big Brothers Big Sisters of America said, quote, LLMs should not be making security decisions. They're probabilistic, not deterministic. That is a bad use case. Any leaders who think otherwise shouldn't be leading in security. Well, some people might argue on this, being the need for agentic AI, but let's go on. Stuart Green of the Armor Group said, quote, there seems to be a consensus here that using a cloud-based LLM is a good thing, but few are considering that connecting multiple clouds to a single cloud turns that cloud LLM into a highly prized target, which will eventually succumb to an attack and will harm those connected to it. Well, these are two different concepts going on here, Adam. One of making yourself too rosy a target by not differentiating and putting your data in multiple buckets. And the other saying that we should always let humans make the decisions. What are your thoughts here?
Yeah, I mean, you're a target if you're not using it, and you're only going to be increasing the target size on you for not keeping up with the speed and pace and cadence of everyone else that is utilizing it and enabling it. I think Travis is making an important technical point, right? This probabilistic versus deterministic, but it's a bit of an overstatement. The question isn't whether LLMs are probabilistic. All security tools have a failure mode. The question is whether the expected value of this AI assisted decision is better than the status quo in the current process of doing it. We're already accepting non-deterministic outcomes in human analysts who are exhausted at 2 a.m. running down an incident. It's hour 12. And then we say LLMs shouldn't make security decisions. That's a high bar we don't even hold humans to. And then on the supply chain concept for Stuart was mentioning, the concentration risk is, it's underappreciated, right? When you route your security telemetry through a shared cloud LLM, you're creating a new high value target. It's an architectural concern, not a theoretical concern there on that one.
I think we spend a lot of time whinging about the non-deterministic nature of LLMs without really looking at, does it matter? The non-deterministic nature means if I ask it a question that has 1,000 words, I'm going to get back a different 1,000 words every time I ask the same question. That's what that means. It doesn't mean yes suddenly becomes no, right? When the answer is binary, it doesn't actually mean you're sometimes going to get a yes and you're sometimes going to get a no. You're sometimes going to get a true, you're sometimes going to get a false. That's not what it means. It's non-deterministic in the same way a human is non-deterministic. And to Adam's point, humans are non-deterministic. It's actually what makes AI so terrifying. It's the first time a computer truly does act like a human. But we trust humans through all of this. Why would we not trust a machine that gives us more human-like and is at least consistent to its non-deterministic level 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year, no matter how much work you give it? It always does the same thing. It doesn't get tired. It's as accurate at 2 a.m. in word 1 as it is at 11:59 at night at word 73,535. We have to get over this fear, because this is all a fear-based response, and instead look at it and go, this is another tool in our toolbox that can do things we've never been capable of before. How do we leverage it in the right way and not the wrong way? And as to the architectural issue, I'm not actually sure what the person is saying. Are they saying, don't just use one premier model cloud-based LLM, use more than one? Because yes, of course, none of these companies are infrastructure companies. Go to status.claude.com and you can see the 950 times they've been down this quarter to know that you can't rely on any one of these. I think it's a less of a security risk than it is an infrastructure risk, because if it's not available, business doesn't happen. And if business doesn't happen, security doesn't matter so much.
Who's our sponsor this week? Cloud risk moves at machine speed. Security teams work ticket by ticket. The gap between how fast exposure happens and how slowly most platforms respond is where the attackers thrive. It's kind of a lot about what we're talking about today. So dashboard shuffling, manual handoffs, brittle workflows across disconnected tools, none of it was built for the cloud you're running today. Cortex Cloud was. The world's first agentic cloud security platform unifies code, cloud, and SOC in one system, carrying the full context of risk from code to runtime to incident response. No handoffs, no broken workflows. One platform, one data layer, one risk model from the moment a vulnerability enters your pipeline to the moment it's gone. AI agents that don't just flag risk, they prioritize it, route it, and resolve it with enterprise guardrails that keep humans in control. Again, what we're talking about here. You need a speed of AI solution to beat a speed of AI threat. Cortex Cloud. Close the gap. Accelerate your defense. Security at the speed of cloud innovation. Do me a favor, go to Palo Alto Network site. Just search Cortex Cloud on their site and learn more about how they're doing just this, moving you faster into the AI era so you can respond faster.
What's most important?
Gagan Mathur of Shell said, quote, "The shift from AI-assisted to AI autonomous security is no longer theoretical, it's operational. Our challenge now is to embed trust, traceability, and guardrails into machine speed decisions without slowing them down. The question isn't just, is AI secure? It's also, are we secure with AI in the loop? End quote. And Donna Ross, who's the CISO over at Radian, said, quote, security teams have to evolve from gatekeepers to strategic collaborators, training, guiding, and aligning AI decisions with human values and risk tolerance. Otherwise, we risk becoming the very friction point we're supposed to remove. And as we enter the era of agentic AI, managing non-human identities becomes mission critical. These autonomous agents will act, decide, and communicate without direct oversight. If we don't apply the same rigor we use for human identities, we'll lose control. So we need AI in the loop, period, like what Gagan was saying right here, Howard. We're just uncomfortable how it's going to play its part. Yes?
Yes, we're also doing several things fundamentally wrong. So we've talked a little bit about kind of how we think about them. Let's talk for a few seconds about this BS around NHI versus HI, because AI is neither of those things. And to think we've actually applied rigor to humans is hilarious. We have humans that start in one department, move to another department, move to another department, and move to another department. And I guarantee that person that moved 4 times has 4 different security contexts applied, because each leader said, well, wait. You're going to take Jim, but Jim's doing a thing for me, so don't take away their permissions to my stuff until Jim's done. And no one ever circles back to say, did Jim ever finish with your stuff? The truth is, AI is far less deterministic than humans are when it comes to trying to get its job done. Humans tend to do the same thing they did yesterday, and when that doesn't work, they stop and they go, it's broken. AI does not do that. So if you give Susie from accounting far more permissions than Susie needs to do her job, Susie's not likely to go exploring one day because she feels like it. Susie is deterministic in that way. AI, however, will try every available option within its security context to try to solve the problem. That makes it a non-deterministic identity. It is not a service account. Service accounts act exactly the same way every time, regardless of how over-provisioned you are. And service accounts only became a security issue when a third party took them over, not because suddenly my SQL service decided it was going to do something strange. That's not actually how that works. So we really need to think about these as 3 different buckets. And then when we talk about trust, trust exists between humans, and it is always a contract. When it exists with something outside of a human, we need a written contract of trust. So using that term, but not backing it up with the contract that we need, leaves us exposed in the same way thinking about identity wrong leaves us exposed. Gives us a false sense of security that never existed in the first place and sets us up for enormous failure.
I'll both agree and disagree with you, right? I agree that from an identity standpoint, yeah, we've never really gotten our arms around the human identity. But from a non-human standpoint, it's way worse than the human stuff.
Sure. Yeah, I wasn't trying to say that one was worse than the other. I'm just trying to bucket it as either one is wrong.
That's a good way of thinking about it. And yeah, I agree with you. I'm tired of Jim and his scope creep. Jim's got to get a grip on his too much access. But Gagan's framing is the operational reality for a lot of large enterprises, right? AI autonomous is already happening, whether security teams are ready for it or not. The question is whether we're shaping or reacting to it. So we've spent a lot of effort thinking about how we govern AI within our own organization. Because at first we were taking a lot more of a gatekeeper approach of like, oh, this thing's scary. We don't know how to manage it. Like it's wild. It's a paradigm shift. All the things we've seen before with web and web 2.0 and mobile and cloud and all of these new security things. They were all scary at first from a security standpoint. And we've taken the approach of like, let's fall back on what we do, right? We do risk management. We understand how to manage risk for these organizations. Let's look at the risk that this AI thing might represent. Let's categorize them. Let's think about a process for high risk versus low risk to be able to enable the business to move fast, to be able the business to like do and adopt these new AI things without just becoming so much of a burden. But like Donna's, NHI point is a really critical thing that I think a lot of security teams might not be thinking about. These agentic AI systems create identities that persist, they authenticate, they act. They're often done with overprivileged access granted at provisioning and really never looked at again. And for as long as that tool might exist, we don't even know who owns that tool eventually. I'm seeing this in tools, agents, workflow automation everywhere right now. Each of those is its own non-human identity that needs lifecycle management, just like a service account, just like a human account. The governance model for NHI doesn't exist in a lot of organizations. I think there's a real opportunity there for the next generation of IAM tooling to evolve to adopt this.
Coming up next, if your threat intel program vanished tomorrow, could you prove anyone would notice?
This threat intelligence tip is sponsored by Malanta.
Here's a pattern that quietly kills cyber threat intelligence programs. The team reports big numbers every month. Indicators ingested, feeds subscribed, reports published. But when it comes time for a budget review, leadership can't name a single decision those numbers changed. For all those metrics, nobody remembered to track impact. The principle that separates functional programs is that if intelligence doesn't change a decision or an action, it had no value. MITRE's Center for Threat-Informed Defense built that idea directly into its INFORM measurement model. INFORM scores 3 weighted dimensions: cyber threat intelligence, defensive measures, and test and evaluation. Now that second one, defensive measures, is the action you take. It carries the highest weight, more than intelligence itself. That means knowing about a threat counts for nothing if it doesn't change what you do. So, stop reporting volume. Track what proves impact. How fast intelligence becomes a detection, a patch priority, or a control change, and how often your finished intel is used by the people it's for. Build a feedback loop where every user tells you what they did with it, and put that in front of the board instead of your indicator count. Intelligence you can't tie to action is just overhead.
To stay ahead of AI-powered attackers and prevent attacks at the staging phase, head to Malanta.ai, pre-attack intelligence. What are the risks we're dealing with?
Rajat Chaubey of Sierra said, quote, "These systems are getting faster, more confident, but confidence isn't the same thing as understanding. How do we make sure AI has enough context about risk, environment, and intent to move from almost right to right enough to act without causing harm?" Really good point. It's not just about adapting to new technology, it's about rethinking the role security plays. Instead of guarding every door, maybe our job becomes helping others walk through them safely without slowing everything down. And Topaz Hurwitz of Israel Post said, quote, "We're beyond simply securing cloud resources. The focus has to shift to securing emergent AI workloads in hybrid ecosystems. The almost right problem with LLM-driven security decisions highlights the critical need for AI observability and explainability in our security stacks. We need to architect security for AI that's also with AI, but with human-in-the-loop oversight and clear anomaly detection baselines established for autonomous remediation." You know, you're nodding your head heavily, Adam, on this. If anyone questions this, just play with AI and you'll see it on your own, won't you? Right, Adam?
Yeah, I mean, I like Raj's point there, right? He's asking the right question. It's how do we give AI enough context to be right enough to act? It doesn't need to be perfect. It's not going to be perfect.
Yeah, also, we act when we're not perfect either, too.
Bingo, bango. Why are we holding this to this higher bar, right? I talked about that. It's a data quality and enrichment problem as much as a model problem. We talked about it earlier, right? Garbage in, confident garbage out. They are very good at being confident in these solutions. Topaz has a point about AI observability where the market is still immature, I think, right? We have great tools for observing what humans do in security systems, but pretty limited tooling for auditing what AI agents decide, why they decide it. Explainability isn't just an audit requirement. It's a debugging requirement. When the AI agent makes a wrong call, it's equally important to understand the decision chain to fix it. These black box remediation is just not acceptable for that model.
Howard, we take this to you.
I agree with almost all of that. The only time I have a problem, as you know, GigaOM is a research organization, right? So we're studying what vendors are doing with all this stuff. The only thing I take issue with is we're trying to apply the same observability that we used for telemetry signal to AI, and it does not work that way. And I think a lot of these companies that are claiming to be able to do AI observability are missing the point. We get in trouble on inputs and outputs. We're not getting into trouble yet on the things that happen inside the agentic communication as much as we are on inputs and outputs, the data we put in and what we do with the data that we get out, and validating, do we have access to that? Do we have right to that? Is that even remotely correct or reasonable from a governance standpoint? Those are much bigger issues today, you know, like the meme that went around that said, don't bother with your cloud subscription, just use the Domino's bot, the Amazon bot, and the Walmart bot, and you can do all your coding, or the McDonald's bot, or whatever it was, right? Like, these problems are so fundamental and so huge and have nothing to do with signal observability that if we try to apply the rules of yesterday to this, we're going to find ourselves, again, marching confidently down the wrong path, in the same way that if we asked AI how to make pizza dough 3 years ago, it told us to add Elmer's glue because it read a Reddit post and a 4chan post, right? We really need to think about these problems within the context of what does it mean to be AI? How do these things work? And really, the way we used to describe AI was, I ask a computer a question, it asks a different computer a similar question that only it has access to. It then reinterprets its response and sends it back to me. Like, AI already has an observability problem and a black box problem that are kind of by design. So how do we work within that paradigm to observe the things we need, to govern the things we need, and really nail that before we get into the how do I do the space in between agents? That's far less important when the garbage goes in and the garbage comes out. How about we identify those and stop the garbage from moving?
But let me also close with this, is that AI is doing what we would do, but faster. But we don't know everything we could do to try to deal with this problem. You know, like the simple example of you can use AI to help you find low fares. I know a bunch of places where I can find low fares, but I don't know all the places I could go find low fares. AI probably knows more than I do. So it's like, it's going to start doing what I would do, but it'll do more than I would do. What do you think, Adam?
I think that is a very fundamental use of AI, which is it's a ugly kind of process that adds a little bit of value that it can just do way better than humans. You're talking about a carbon-based light form sitting down, tapping on plastic keys, sending electronic signals. Like, that is an immense waste of human talent to be doing that. I don't want humans looking up low fare things. I don't want humans looking at basic security triage things. I want the robots doing that low level work so it can free up my humans to get on the plane, to go somewhere, to do something else, to look at that higher level work.
I agree with you generally. I think where it falls apart is only, and it's really just nuanced, it's only that the difference between AI and humans, and you can use this as a specific example, is humans inject context into the things that we do that we never even think about and consider, and our context window is enormous. As in, I wanted to find me a low fare to go from here to India. India is going to involve a plane change. But what I'm probably not going to say is I'd really prefer to just not go through Frankfurt, even though that's the default option and by far the cheapest, because going through Frankfurt, depending on how you go through Frankfurt from terminal to terminal, you might go through customs 3 times. I only know that because I went through customs 3 times. I'm not going to think about that when I'm talking to AI because I don't think about that actively. When I'm scrolling the list of fares, skip the ones that connect through Frankfurt, as an example. Or I had a bad experience at this airport, so I don't want to go through that airport because I know walking through that airport, I have to exit security and come back through security, or any other number of things, right? Or the lounge doesn't work. The context that I carry isn't context that I generally transfer to AI. When I take the time to transfer it to AI, it is much better. So there's value humans add that AI doesn't have and value AI has that humans don't have. We've got to figure out how to bridge that gap.
And I was going to say, you are just raising the bar on the AI, though, right? You're expecting the AI to have all that context, which is no different than if you went to a travel agent and said, I want to go from here to India or whatever it might be. You would have to give them that implicit context that you possess. And if you do give the AI that context, it will make the right decision. But I would say it's probably smart enough to know connecting through Frankfurt is a bad idea. because it knows that there might be customs and other things going on there. It has that information. If you give it the best prompt there, you might be getting a better answer than you'd expect. The context in this is like it doesn't know about you and your preferences for travel and those type of things and how you travel. Like the world of context that AI doesn't possess is immensely larger than the world that it does. So the more you can give it, you can get it to 90-95% of the way there, which is darn good enough.
I agree. I agree. My comment was not, that's why I used the word context when referring to humans too.
Your argument was that you just don't like Germany. We understood it. We got it.
Yeah. Okay, I didn't mean the subtext to be so clear there. I'm not sure how to recover from this. No, but it really is. Like for years, people talked about how bad the content was created by AI while I was creating content from AI that no one noticed was created from AI. Why? Because I spent a tremendous amount of time refining what makes my content, and I don't like my content. I don't write well. I misspell things constantly. I make grammatical mistakes. I don't terribly find it interesting. AI allowed me to overcome all of that and actually produce content. But it actually sounds like when I speak. I'm good speaking. It's fine. But I invested the time to make that happen. Out of the box, AI is good. It's shocking. It creates shock and awe. But it's not good. It creates an awful lot of slop because it's trained on the mean on all of the internet and produces to the mean. But if you spend the time, and that's what I mean when I refer to humans containing context, how do we get the context that humans use without ever thinking about or considering it into AI so AI starts giving us the right things? I think we need to spend a lot of time there and trying to figure that out.
And that brings us to the end of the show where I'm going to ask both of you, which quote was your favorite and why? And we will start with you, Adam. Which quote here was your favorite and why?
I think Donna's quote, right? When we think about security's evolution from gatekeepers to strategic collaborators, that is the essence of what's going on right now. And if security continues to be the wall or the bastion or the thing for which the waves crash upon to be the resistance of AI, it is setting you up for failure and it is setting your organization up for failure. Where security leaders need to go now is to enable the business to move fast, to make the right decisions, to accept the appropriate level of risk in order to safely, securely adopt these AI solutions commensurate with the risk that they, establish within your organization.
Good point. All right, Howard, your favorite quote and why?
Donna Ross. 2 reasons. First, I'm a big fan of Diana Ross, and boy, does that name work for that.
And the Supremes. Okay, sure. And I believe Donna Ross can sing a lot of the same music.
I think we should give that a shot. I think we should try. The second reason is really kind of just to piggyback on what Adam said. For some reason, security teams think that they are just brakes. Just brakes, just on 100% of the time, that's all there are, right? The reality is we don't drive cars because they're safe. We drive cars because we need to get to a place and we need to get there quicker than any other method, right? The brakes exist, the crumple zones exist, the airbags exist as friction pieces to keep us safe. They don't exist to stop us from driving. Security teams need to be the friction that allows enterprises to recover from accidents, to slow down when danger is ahead, and to alert them, not the thing that holds them in the driveway and goes, no, business cannot happen. And too often, security teams are the business cannot happen. They're the office of no. They need to be the office of yes and no but. No, don't do it that way. But if we do this instead, we can accomplish this in a secure way. Yes, do that, but add this governance and control so we can protect the business while we continue to do business. And that's what the core of what Diana was talking about. And in AI, I think that becomes far more important. And we really have to let those brakes off right now and start moving with AI. Even if that makes us uncomfortable, even if that contains risk, even if it scares us a bit, we need to be adults. We need to get over it. And we need to embrace what the business needs us to be successful and still add the intelligence and friction and risk mitigation so we don't go careening off a cliff or take the AI's advice and drive across a bridge that doesn't exist like we did with early GPSs.
Our CTO just quoted, I think it was Mario Andretti, I can go fast because I have brakes.
It's the classic line about security. Brakes on a race car. Well, that brings us to the very end of our show. Huge thanks to our sponsor, and that would be Palo Alto Networks and Cortex Cloud. Go to their site, Palo Alto Networks, and search Cortex Cloud to find out more information about agentic security from code to cloud to SOC. A lot about what we're talking about on today's episode. Thank you very much, Howard Holton, CEO of GigaOM, for stepping in today as the guest co-host, and Adam Glick, are you hiring over there at PSG Equity, or are your portfolio companies hiring?
We are always looking for talented developers, engineers, security professionals. We have a swath of companies in the portfolio where autonomy and security is a topic they're focusing on and actively navigating. We're always looking for top-notch folks. psgequity.com. You can find our career website there and our portfolio companies' careers right on the website.
Awesome. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Adam. Thank you very much, Howard. And thank you to our audience. We greatly appreciate your contributions and for listening to Defense in Depth.
We've reached the end of Defense in Depth. Make sure to subscribe so you don't miss yet another hot topic in cybersecurity. This show thrives on your contributions. Please write a review, leave a comment on LinkedIn or on our site, CISOseries.com, where you'll also see plenty of ways to participate, including recording a question or a comment for the show. If you're interested in sponsoring the podcast, contact David Spark directly at david@cisoseries.com. Thank you for listening to Defense in Depth.